In this video, we're going to go through the repair process of replacing a throttle on your STACYC.
All right, now go ahead and remove the battery. And the first step will be to take a 4mm Allen and loosen up and remove the bolts holding on the footrest. Once you've got both those bolts out, go ahead and tap it forward and the footrest will slide forward and off. Now you'll grab a Phillips screw and remove the 7 Phillips screws that hold the side panels together. You'll notice if you have an older bike, they have T10 Torx screws instead of the Phillips style on this bike. Now once you've got all 7 screws loose, go ahead and split the side panels apart, but be careful not to drop any of the screws on the ground. Next, you will remove the battery connector. Pay close attention to how that was installed, as when you go to put it back together, there is some locating features there. Use a flathead screwdriver to remove the rubber bar end from the throttle. Grab a 2.5mm Allen and loosen the set screw that secures the throttle to the handlebar. Next, you're going to clip all the zip ties securing the throttle cable to the handlebar and cut the heat sink that secures those 2 cables together. Be sure not to cut through the insulation on the throttle cable. Once you've got that piece removed, go ahead and remove the throttle. Next, you're going to remove the rubber edge trim from the frame. This will give you a little bit more clearance to help pull the connectors down through the down tube. You want to be careful here not to put too much pressure onto the positive spade connector. Now that you've got the connectors out, you'll notice that one isn't connected. This is your programming port. The other 2 are the throttle connectors. Go ahead and disconnect those and slide those 2 back up into the down tube, as they're going to come up through the top. Next, you're going to loosen the rear brake hanger by taking that 10mm and taking it all the way off. Once you've got the nut off, go ahead and pull the rest of it off. You're going to need to snake the brake cable through the frame to give yourself clearance to pull the connectors through the hole on the down tube of the frame. Grab your brake cable now and pull that one out. It's going to sit off to the side. Now remove that rubber edge trim, and one at a time you're going to fish the throttle connectors out that little hole. To install the throttle, we're going to reverse the process of taking the throttle off. So go ahead and start with your throttle connectors, one at a time. Go ahead and slide those through the hole. Next, we're going to slide the throttle cable down the down tube until we see it in front of the motor. Once again, be careful with those the positive lead there. Reestablish those connections. Then we're going to stuff those connections back up into the down tube. Once we got the throttle cables back in position, we want to make sure that the rubber edge trim is back in place so that there's no chafing on the electrical wires. And now we're ready to reinstall the brake cable. So go ahead and fish that one through the down tube. The brake cable will ride just underneath the drivetrain, so you may need a tool to help fish the brake cable through the motor cavity to get it back into position. Once it's back in position, if you have any questions about adjusting the rear brake, please refer to the brake adjustment video. The next step would be to secure the throttle back onto the handlebar by using your 2.5mm Allen screw. You want to ensure that there is about 1 millimeter of handlebar exposed from the outside of the throttle tube. So when you put the rubber bar end back on, these two pieces cannot interfere with each other. Next, you'll go ahead and secure the throttle cable to the handlebar and give the bike strain relief. So if the bars were to do a 360, the throttle would not be compromised. To reinstall the side panels, go ahead and start with the left-hand side and notice the locating features on the side panel that will help the ESC sit securely in there. Once you've got that in position, go ahead and switch your attention to the battery connector and get the locating features lined up and in place. And then you're going to grab the right-hand side panel and apply that to the bike. Now you want to get down low and make sure that the battery connector comes together seamlessly on the bottom, and I always start with the bottom screw to ensure that those connectors don't have any problems down the road, that part is secure. So go ahead and check it for spacing right along those lines, make sure that it is secure, and now you can move along to the other 6 screws. Pay close attention. 6 screws are a little bit longer, and those go into the side panels. The last screw will have a washer on it and will be a little bit shorter. This piece is to connect the side panel with the chain guard by the rear wheel. The last step will be to reinstall the footrest. Go ahead and slide the footrest on. You may need to tap it to get the holes to line up. Once the holes line up, go ahead and throw the bolts through and tighten them down.